Listen, what do you make of this whole thing?
Well, first I just want to preface it by saying, Alec Baldwin cried. Some people said he's an actor. Maybe he summoned those tears. Kyle Rittenhouse cried. Some people said maybe his lawyer put him up to it. I think we should get away from that as a country.
Mm-hmm.
Alec Baldwin killed somebody and he was emotional about it. Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 people and he was emotional about it. It kind of bothers me that we're accusing everyone of summoning fake emotions or putting a tack in their shoe to produce tears when we're all pretty, Kyle Rittenhouse, Baldwin, they're human beings. They have feelings. They killed someone. It brings up emotion. So separate issue. As far as being on set and having the DP or the photographer, I'm trying to think of what her
cinematographer was, Helena Hutchins,
or I guess we should call him DP's director of photography, whatever. It made total sense what he was explaining. Hold the gun, move it this way, move it. There's shadows. There's a lot of, like, when you film stuff, there's a lot of cheating. There's a lot of, like, you're supposed to be talking to this person, but you're talking to their ear. But on camera, it looks like you're talking to them. So you don't know instinctively what it looks like on the camera. So there is a lot of directing of move more this way, get the light, hold it down, even if it doesn't look like it's pointing the right direction. So from what I know of this story, and Alex, a friend of mine, and he's a volatile guy and he's a talented guy and he's a million things. He's definitely not someone who would want to hurt somebody. It sounds to me like they had a very old pistol. It sounds to me like he was moving it around. And it sounds like to me like he pulled the hammer back on the pistol.
That's what he said.
And then it sounds to me like he let the hammer go and it fired the bullet. That's, from what I know so far, that's what this sounds like to me.
Mm-hmm. That's what he said. I am not a gun expert. What I hear from the gun experts I listen to on television over the past 24 hours suggests that I heard one guy say it's remotely possible for that to happen, but highly unlikely. There was a guy on GB, Good Morning Britain, Piers Morgan's old program. He did a kind of decent demonstration that I'll play for you, challenging that this gun could be fired off without a squeezing of the trigger. But listen to this.
This is a replica of the same gun that he used. Yeah. And to work this gun, you have to perform 2 deliberate acts. First, you have to pull the hammer back. It makes 3 distinct clicks while you do that. And then to get it to fire, you have to press the trigger. However, you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. On these guns from the 1800s, if you depress the trigger and then pull the hammer back and release it, you can still get the gun to fire. Mm-hmm. However, in no circumstance, when you have the hammer cocked, will the gun fire without the trigger being depressed. So there's definitely 2 deliberate acts that were required there. He had to cock the gun and he had to press the trigger.
And he maintains that he didn't pull the trigger out.
If he had his finger on the trigger, here and he's pressing it, he may not be aware that he's pressed the trigger. Then he pulls the hammer back.
Right.
And then he releases it and then the gun fires.
Kind of interesting, because I have to tell you, from a legal standpoint, I see, and I did believe the tears when I saw him, but I also think there's some legal maneuvering going on there, because the less pointing of the gun and pulling of the trigger he did, the better position he's in, because he is being looked at. The sheriffs have not ruled out criminal charges against him, sheriff and his deputies. And you're not supposed to point a gun at somebody on a set, and the scene didn't call for pulling the trigger either. So, let's be real. I think he feels like he has to say he didn't do it.
Also through that demonstration, which was interesting, it's possible, at least it could be argued in his defense, that the trigger was pulled in before it was handed to him, in which case, if he pulled the hammer back and let it go, it would fire the gun. At least that's
But
what
wouldn't
I
you have to
got.
keep your finger on the trigger pulled? Like, I don't know this gun, but like, once you release your finger off of the trigger, it releases. It doesn't stay pulled.
I think in that demonstration, they're saying if you pull the trigger first and then cock the hammer
He said
back,
you have to hold it. He said if you held it. But he's saying if you pull the
held it.
trigger and
I'm
you
sorry.
held it
It's
and you
very-
held your finger back.
I'm sorry, it's very small on my screen, so I can't. It's like the size of a postage stamp, so I can't see.
In any event, look, neither one of us is a gun expert, so I'm sure the gun experts out there are rolling their eyes, saying, "Shut the hell up! Please don't touch this." But to me, you understand, you know Alec, and you know the movie business, and I know the law, and what I see is somebody trying to lay the foundation for an escape.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I don't. I think there's a lot of speculation that he's trying to get ahead of this. He's trying to put a narrative out. He wants to get a narrative. He's talked to his lawyers, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's how it works. Like, it doesn't mean he's lying per se, but it means he does want to get out in front of this. And, when people go like, oh, he's talked to his lawyers, he's worked this out. I'm sure he has talked to his lawyers. I'm sure he has worked it out. Like that is kind of how we roll. And, if this happened to your husband or to your son or my son, I would do it the same way, or I would take the advice of the lawyers. It doesn't, I think sometimes we do this thing where it's sort of like, oh, he won't take the stand in his own defense. He must be guilty. Like, well, not necessarily. Sometimes people just do what their lawyers tell them to do.
Mm-hmm. I feel like his lawyers probably told him, "Shut up. No, you don't need it. You don't need to get out there. They're not going to charge you."
I got to tell you, I'm doing a podcast with Mark Garagos in about an hour, and all he ever does is marvel at these guys doing interviews and goes, "Why won't they should shut up?"
Yes, of course. That's what the lawyer always wants you to do. Just be quiet. Say nothing more. I don't know. We'll see. He's fighting a few battles, right? Because he's got a legal battle, though I do think it's unlikely he gets criminally charged. He's going to get sued, 100% going to get sued, his production company. But I don't think he's going to get charged. And I do believe if somebody intentionally messed with his ammo, that's a different story. But to me, it seems like this is a series of, so far, tragic accidents, people, carelessness. Yeah. I don't know that we're in even criminal territory.
And I think it's exacerbated by a lot of other blowhard actors who do I always check the gun.
George Clooney.
Never check the gun. It's like, I bet I could find 100 examples of you on set with all the action movies you've made while you're talking on your cell phone and someone just hands you a gun and you go, yeah, okay. But they do this sanctimonious holier than thou thing.